Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Oh, great to be back. Hello. With all due love to one of my adopted cities of Albany, it's really great to have left Albany and to be back here in the city once again. We've got an exciting program and announcements to talk about here today, reflecting one of my highest priorities. And I want to thank the individuals who came here today to show their support, great allies of ours, starting with Mayor Eric Adams, who's been shoulder to shoulder with me, prioritizing the safety of our residents from very first day on the job. So I thank you. We'll be hearing from the mayor momentarily. Also, we have district attorneys, and they are really on the front line of protecting our citizens. And I want to extend to them the gratitude and the challenges that they face every single day, and their teams who work so hard. They're dedicated public servants. I've seen them in action. And I want to acknowledge our district attorney from Queens, Melinda Katz, has joined us. Melinda Katz. Eric Gonzalez, the district attorney of Kings County. Darcel Clark, the district attorney from the Bronx. Alvin Bray, the district attorney from New York County. Stanley Richards, the deputy chief executive officer from the Fortune Society. Thank you. And Tony Jordan, who had the longest commute here today, the president of the District Attorneys Association. Thank him for joining us as well. I believe we also have the sheriff of Albany County here. Craig Apple has joined us. Great to see you again, Sheriff. Of course, I want to thank Martin Englisher. We are in his house, a place he has occupied for 42 years of service to the YM and YWHA of Washington Heights and Inwood. We've been here before. We came here during our budget rollout a year ago to talk about our investments, our historic investments in childcare, and he hosted us. So let's continue taking care of our children, but this is a great place to set the stage for the conversation we're going to have. And this is a place that since 1917 has been changing the lives of so many people with educational, recreational, and social programs to lift them up. So it's organizations like this that are helping all of us give safe alternatives to our children so they don't have to go to the streets. They can find a home, a sense of family right in this building. So I thank them. And to everyone coming here today, it's been a long few weeks. Groundhog Day a couple times. Groundhog weeks, Groundhog month, but here we are. And this budget process did take some extra time, but I said from the very beginning, it's not a race to a deadline, it's a race to the right results. And we have to move this state forward. I said we have to make it safer, more affordable, and more livable. I made that promise in my State of the State back in January. And that's exactly what this budget does. Throughout this process, public safety has been front and center for me because we always had the victims of crimes and their families in mind. People like Jackie Rowe Adams. Jackie, please stand up. Jackie. You know her work. Love you, darling. A devoted public servant, a Harlem community leader, but never someone who thought she'd be thrust into a situation where, with the loss of her two sons to gun violence, she became a spokesperson. She became a beacon of hope. She became a person who said, yes, I will stand up and to make sure that no other mother has to endure the searing pain that I had to with the loss of my boys. And I thank you for your courage, Jackie. It takes a lot of courage, and I thank you for all you do for our state, you and so many others. It was people like you that we thought of and your families during this process. And the Harlem Mothers Safe, which you've done to help save lives. And you'll never know how many young people you saved and families you were spared from what you went through. But channeling your pain into action, that grief has been extraordinary. An inspiration to all of us. Jackie Rowe. So we're making historic investments to support organizations like Jackie's and to transform public safety. Take those challenges and turn them into better days for our communities across the state. Because it is my firm belief that every single New Yorker deserves to feel safe and to be safe in their communities. Whether it's the local bodega owner worried about shoplifters, the mother who worries about her kids walking home from school, a young woman traveling late at night on the subway, or a community that overall just feels under siege from the day after day specter of gun violence. For too many New Yorkers, the fear is real, and fear can become paralyzing. So as government leaders, we had to stand up and say, no more, no more. We owe it to the neighbors, to our children, to business leaders, to do everything we can in our power to make our streets safer. So today, I want to take this opportunity to talk to you about some of the investments we're making to tackle crime head-on and to make New Yorkers safe. We work with the legislature to craft a combination of new policy and major investments that we believe will make a real difference. New Yorkers are going to see these dollars at work, and they're going to feel the impact. Overall, we're investing $772 million in a holistic approach to public safety. First time ever, record investments to keep New Yorkers safe. First, let's start with the challenge that communities all across New York are facing, from Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, down here to the city, Albany, the gun violence epidemic. We're doubling down on methods that we know work. I'm proud to announce we're investing $347 million in gun violence prevention. It's the largest investment ever in our state's GIVE program, the Gun-Involved Violence Elimination Initiative, and we're sending resources to communities most impacted by gun violence. But we're not just making reactive investments. We're being proactive. This is what we call the holistic approach to criminal justice. We're going to get at the root causes in these communities, the causes of the problems, and find out why the young people too often are making the wrong decision. It's about investing in those kids right from the start. Youth employment programs, they're successful. They give them the skills they need, they give them a purpose, a sense of belonging that sometimes they're just not getting in their homes. Give them opportunities to keep them off the streets, on a positive path, so they can be successful in a classroom, on the ball field, at work, extracurricular activities. We have to keep them engaged. I truly believe that to my core. A crucial element is our SNUG outreach program. I have seen this work for many, many years. My hometown of Buffalo got to know all the leaders of SNUG, former gang members who realize that they have a purpose, a calling to help other young people stay off the path that they were on. So we're investing heavily in SNUG. More opportunities for our youth, help them pursue a college degree, other options, workforce development. And we believe that ultimately programs like this can be a catalyst for change in these young lives before it's too late, before gun violence tears more communities apart and makes them deal with this trauma that they've had to deal with. We also are talking about what we can do to address the aftermath of communities. Whether it's the day-to-day gun violence or a place like my hometown of Buffalo, where ironically on Mother's Day will be the one-year anniversary of the mass shooting in a neighborhood grocery store not far from where I live. So we're investing $70 million for communities to deal with the aftermath of gun violence, to help lift them up, to give them a purpose, help deal with problems that are specific to their neighborhoods, to help them cope with the pain and connect them with the resources. Because you see the effects. Gun violence the victim themselves, whether they survive or not, their families, but also their siblings, the younger brothers and sisters, the perpetrators of the crimes, their family members are affected. It has an impact on their mentality, their mental health, psychology. Let's invest in those individuals as well, so they don't have to believe that they're somehow at fault. They need mental health services. So we're making those kind of investments. We're investing in people, but on the other side of the equation, we have to invest in law enforcement and help them make sure they have the resources they need to solve and to prevent crimes. And our state police have been an indispensable resource for me. When I first became governor at the beginning of a rise in gun violence, I knew that we had talent that could be used more than patrolling the highways. Let's get them stopping the drugs and the guns from coming into our borders from places like Pennsylvania, up the Iron Pipeline, and our state police working with NYPD and 9 other states that we brought together. Because it's not going to, we're not manufacturing the guns in New York. They're all coming from somewhere else. And our state police, I've deployed them to be on the front lines. I'm increasing community stabilization units. What is this? This is literally state police embedded in communities. I've seen them in action in Rochester and Syracuse where they had spikes in crime, and now it's stabilized. We're increasing that to 25 communities. We also have a shortage in law enforcement. The mayor sees this. We see this in our communities all over the state. We're activating, doubling the number of classes for new recruits to join the state police. But I knew that there was one area. Build up law enforcement, help them, increase the ranks, empower them. But I also knew that there's one lingering issue that people spoke about, something we needed to address, and that's the issue of bail reform. I support its core premise. I've always said that. Where someone's wealth, I don't believe should be the determinant of whether they go to jail or free. 2 people accused of the same offense. One's family has money, bails them out, they're back in school, back at their job, same offense, someone else is sitting in jail. Fundamentally unfair. No one should be sitting in Rikers accused, not at trial, for a minor offense because they didn't have the money. But I believe that judges should have the authority to set bail and detain dangerous defendants. Full stop. Our data shows that as a result of the recent changes done in 2019, there are decreases in recidivism for low-level offenses. That's positive. But increases, this is what's most troubling, increases in recidivism for defendants charged with the serious crimes. So it's clear that changes were needed. I'm glad we came to an agreement. We talked about it, had a lot of spirited conversations. It was tough, but I knew we needed to get this done in our budget. The agreement that we'll be signing momentarily removes what is known as the least restrictive means standard, which judges have said ties their hands. It now gives them discretion if they need to hold violent criminals accountable. It upholds our fundamental belief in a criminal justice system that is fair and accessible to all, and also ensure that poverty is never treated as a crime. So I want to thank the leaders and the members of the legislature for the thoughtful work that we pulled together and got this result. But I know that changing bail laws won't solve all our problems. I never said it would. So we're investing in aid for prosecution and defense funding all across the state so the criminal justice system can function efficiently. And that's why we're providing district attorneys across the state $170 million to help do their jobs. Let's give another round of applause to our district attorneys. We're also investing $100 million for prosecution and defense funding across the state, as well as giving a pay increase long overdue for our public defenders who are also working so hard. New funding for pretrial services and alternatives to incarceration programs to focus on programs that lead to better outcomes for defendants. A lot of these individuals need help. They need supportive services, anger management, substance abuse treatment, mental health challenges. We're trying to help them so we can get them off the treadmill, get them out of that cycle. And we also, to ensure that people who've paid their debt to society can smoothly reintegrate into communities, we're investing in 20 reentry task forces across the state. I want to make sure that when people are back in society, there's support for them. They need housing, they need a job, they need some services. And if we don't make those investments in them, we've set people on a path to just be in the system over and over and over again. That's what this budget gets at. We're also dealing with an unprecedented opioid epidemic. I have held the hands of many families, cried with them when they lost a loved one. It's getting worse. My family was one of those families. We lost my nephew to fentanyl a few years ago. But it's gotten so much worse. It's so much more powerful, so much more lethal. And people feel so hopeless that they don't have an alternative. We have to give them hope. We have to give them a path to recovery. And that's why we're going to be dealing with the dealers, the people who are bringing this substance into our communities, prosecuting overdose deaths, stopping fentanyl distribution, and providing more supportive services and prevention and treatment. We're going to continue on this path. There's not an easy answer. I was a young staffer with Senator Moynihan back in the 80s when we had the coke and the crack cocaine crisis. The mayor remembers. He was out in those mean streets back then. But you know, we turned the corner. We were able to get ahead of it. It was a thoughtful response out of Washington. Now our state has to step up and treat this just as seriously. I'm proud of this budget. We've done a lot to make New Yorkers safe, but we won't rest. This is not a mission accomplished moment. This says we're on a path until every single parent has peace of mind when their kids are walking home from school. We won't rest until gun violence is now an afterthought, something that happens more rarely. And we won't rest until every single New Yorker has the peace that they deserve. And I'm grateful for the partners I have. This has been a long journey to this point, and I thank again Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the Majority Leader of the New York State Senate, Carl Heastie, the Speaker of the Assembly. Extraordinary work they did to get us to this point. I view them as tremendous friends, partners, spoke to them both this morning, and thank them for deepening our relationship to do what's right for the people of this state. And again, thank you with great gratitude to the mayor, our district attorneys, our community groups, our organizations, our clergy. Reverend Bernard has joined us and graced us with his presence, keeps us in his prayers. And I won't stop. We're just getting started, my friends. I will not stop until we've made New York State be the safest, the best place to raise your families, to own a business. This is the Excelsior State. We have to live up to that motto, and I thank all of you. Thank you. And with that, let me bring up an incredible partner, a strong ally who, again, is out there day after day putting his heart and soul into helping New York City recover from the crime crisis we're facing now. And I do believe under his leadership, we will get there. We are making progress, and I'm going to make sure we have the resources to help the city out any way we can. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the great Mayor of the City of New York, Eric Adams.
Thank you so much, Governor. And really, just a partnership. We started out this session in Albany focused on communication. And I just cannot say enough about the governor, what she has done from day one when we needed to regain control of our subway system. She found the resources and support with the subway safety plan in February, then again in October, when we sat down and had to deal with the incoming migrant crisis, a conversation with Washington, D.C., and making sure we could get the support and go into Albany during this budget season and talk about how we assist in alleviating the burden on our city. But most importantly, something that's dear to my heart. I talked about it over and over again, not only as a candidate, a state senator, as the borough president, but as a police officer. Public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity, and we could have public safety and justice. Because as being someone that started out standing on the steps of City Hall with Jackie Rowe Adams as she started her organization of Harlem Mothers Save, and spending countless number of days with parents who had to deal with the loss of their loved ones, and seeing bullets carve highways of death through our communities, not only destroying the physical body that it hits, but the anatomies of the communities that people exist in. This budget is a budget that clearly will make our city and our communities safer. Thank you. Kudos to you, Governor. Kudos to the leader of the Assembly Assemblyman and Speaker Carl Hastie, and to our leader in the Senate, Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousin, for coming to the table. All of my trips to Albany was worthwhile. We were able to really come together and engage in real conversation, and we're seeing progress. The key here, the governor pointed out that I hope many people did not miss. The criminal justice reforms were successful in those areas of non-violent, non-repeated offenders. We wanted to sit down and address those who were dangerous and recidivists. And when my counsel, Brendan McGuire, and our team met with the governor's staff over and over again, at the beginning of the budget process, we sat in the room and we talked about the recidivism. When we talked about that, people wanted to bring every part of the criminal justice reform, and we said no. There's a small number of people who are violent, who are dangerous, who are recidivists. And the governor heard us. She brought her team together, and we were able to zero in on those who are repeated offenders, and that is important. Our goal was to make justice faster and fairer. That is what this budget is accomplishing. And when you want to just highlight a few key areas, we have to start with the recidivism issue. That is a real issue. Small number of New Yorkers who are extremely violent, and there was a lack of clarity on how the judges can use their powers to ensure that they do not repeatedly harm innocent people in this city. In this budget, the 2024 budget, it addresses recidivism in 5 important ways that would empower: 1, empower judges; reduce domestic violence. That's driving a lot of our felony assaults, domestic violence, and even some of the homicides, and hold repeated offenders accountable. But also addresses the need for increased enforcement on the emerging cannabis market. This has become a problem throughout the entire state, if not the entire country, and it's more than just selling illegal cannabis. It is driving some of our robberies in our commercial establishments. It is driving some of the shootings. It's a cash-only business, so it's creating its own industry of violence. And by cracking down on the illegal cannabis market, it is going to allow us to really prosper from the work we have done to make sure those who are doing it the legal way are able to grow the cannabis industry in this city. This budget also provides additional funding for our district attorneys. Our district attorneys, the number of times we've met with our district attorneys and sat down in a room with them and communicated with them, they were very clear and focused on what they need. New Yorkers, let's be clear. The erosion of our criminal justice system is going to impact on those who are seeking justice and those who are caught up in the justice system. Our district attorneys are having a problem in staffing up, hiring. They were overwhelmed with paperwork. This infusion of money is going to allow them to start the process of hiring up their staff, and I just want to thank them for your conversations, your insight, and your understanding of how important this is, and to give them the funding they need to carry out the job that they must do. But we did something else. When we went to Albany, I was clear. We had to make sure our public defenders also received the money that they deserve. When you look at our public defenders, there were many people that wanted to dismiss the role that they did, and I said no to that, because criminal justice reform must be on both parts of justice and public safety. People should not languish in jails for a long period of time waiting to get the determination and the outcome of their cases, just as victims should not have to put their lives on hold. So this governor put in place not only resources for our prosecutors, but resources for our defense attorneys. And it was a good advocacy that we put in place to make it happen, and I really want to commend the governor for finding that fine balance and not allowing the naysayers to get in the way of accomplishing this task. This is a moment we can celebrate. We can celebrate together, our city and state working together to deliver a safer New York for all. And just who's here today is a reflection on the success of that. To have the Fortune Society here, to have Pastor Bernard here, our clergy, to have the advocates like Jackie Rowe Adams here, to have our law enforcement here, our prosecutors, our defense attorneys here. We're saying that we're coming together because safety is something that this society, the city, the state deserves, and we're moving in the right direction to do that. We're clear today. It's not right for dangerous people to stay on our streets longer, but it's also not right for others to languish behind bars as the criminal justice process drags on. I'm confident today, working together, we are going to move in a direction, as the governor stated. We're not spiking the ball, but we know we are moving towards the goal line. And we will be successful in making and continuing to have the city and state to be the safest state in America. Governor, job well done. I cannot thank you enough from the beginning of this process. And you are right. It was not about a deadline. It was about making sure that we do it right, and you did it right. Thank you, Governor.
Good morning. Good morning. First, I want to just thank you, Governor, and thank you, Mayor. As you said, it really takes a village to create the public safety we need and we deserve in the city and in this state. And your budget today is a great example of how we can continue to work together to bring about the safety that impacts the lives of men and women in this great state. The Fortune Society's mission is to support successful reentry from incarceration and promote alternatives to incarceration, thus strengthening the fabric of the community. It is one element of a multi-pronged approach to building safer, stronger communities. Each year, we serve about 10,000 people who have been impacted by the justice system, who is seeking a new life, seeking an opportunity to get the second chance. Fortune and our sister agencies, many of who in the audience today, Osborne Association, the Center for Justice Innovation, the Center for Employment Opportunities, A Little Piece of Light, all of us have been working and offering a range of services from workforce development, education, mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment, housing, diversion programs, all of the services that help us reduce our footprint on mass incarceration and give people a second chance. As a formerly incarcerated man of color who has 30 years of service and advocacy, I know firsthand the impact of a well-balanced, well-purposed, and focused budget and strategy to bring about safe communities. Governor Hochul, what you have done, what the state legislature has done, Mayor Adams, what you are doing in New York City is a step in the right direction. But as Mayor Adams said, this is not a time to spike the ball. We still have so many communities who are hurting. We still have so many Black and brown people who are caught up in the cycle of incarceration and lingering in our jails and in our prisons. Make no mistake, we need to recognize the success we've had over the decades. When I was incarcerated, there was over 22,000 people incarcerated in New York City. It went to 72,000 in New York State. We are now down to 31,000 people in our New York State prisons. I was part of Governor Hochul's commission. Yes, yes. I was part of Governor Hochul's commission to repurpose the prisons that we closed. In New York City, we're down to 5,900. We know at Fortune, by working together, by leveraging our partnerships and our resources, that we could bring about the fundamental change that we all want. We want our criminal justice system to be centered on the humanity of those who work in the system and those who pass through the system. We want our communities to be lifted up, not with a voice of we know better than the community, but with a voice of partnership and solidarity. We know that when we center our work on the humanity of those who are impacted by the justice system, we can see major, major transformation. So while this budget is a budget and a blueprint for some really, really good things, we need to keep working. So Governor Hochul, Mayor Adams, on behalf of Fortune Society and all of the sister agencies who do this work every single day, we look forward to continuing to partner with you to bring about the change that you know, that we know we need and we can achieve. It is our collective togetherness that will bring about that change. And so there is no I, there is us. And I salute you for this budget. We thank you for this budget, and we look forward to continuing to work with you because we know change is possible. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Tony Jordan, President, District Attorneys Association of New York.
Good morning. Governor, on behalf of myself personally, my wonderful colleagues that are here, and those from across the state, thank you so much for your leadership in moving this forward. It's a critical time for us, and your leadership has really brought about something that I think many said in January was not possible. So thank you very much for that, and from the bottom of my heart. Jackie, what you do and your colleagues across the state, you make a difference in victims' lives every day, and they don't always get to say thank you. So, really on behalf of the DAs that are here, the work you do here in the city, but colleagues of yours across the state, thank you. With any transformative change, which is what we had in 2019 to criminal justice, regardless of how noble the effort was, there are bound to be challenges that are going to come with that. And what we have found, and I know the mayor's touched on it, it's a few, right? It's a small percentage of people that are causing the greatest amount of harm in our state. What we're also seeing is across our state, it's our most vulnerable communities that are paying a disproportionate price for the harm caused by these few. So we've set out over the past few years trying to figure out a way to bring balance to that, to address the needs that are present. And Governor, your team, working with our legislature, accomplished that in, I think, two significant ways that I'd like to touch on. One is gun violence. And our world is very often focused on what do we do when that has happened in our communities. But what this budget does, really a generational funding, right, is address not only the enforcement and prosecution and that side of the equation, but more importantly, investing in entities like Fortune and others. You're bringing about a change in opportunity, a change in approach, and really an opportunity for communities to avoid the problem in the first instance. And so for that, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the communities that receive GIVE funding, SNUG funding, but also all of the programs and investments similar to where we are today that will help prevent gun violence in the future. So thank you for that. Certainly bail was a big part of the conversation during the budget, and there's been a lot of naysayers. There's been a lot of people suggesting that we're returning to pre-2019 days. And I stand here today having had an opportunity to look at the proposal and what has now been passed and say that is not the case. what you and the leadership have done is return discretion to our judges to allow them to address the very violent individuals that are wreaking havoc in our communities. But it's not unfettered discretion, right? It is discretion with important guideposts that will guide them to make the right decision, to hold people that need to be held, but provide assistance to those that need assistance. My colleague Eric Gonzalez was saying earlier to you, I know that the treatment opportunities that are included in the non-monetary conditions are so key. That will help us stem the tide of the opioid pandemic that is continuing to plague our state and our country. And I think those opportunities, giving that strength and that opportunity to our judges, will be critical as we move forward to building a safer New York. So in conclusion, I really want to thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Your team has worked tirelessly to address the needs of district attorneys. In the last 2 budgets, unlike any previous budgets, you actually helped fund what is a very important part of compliance and enforcement, and that is discovery. And without that investment, we would not be where we are today. And your foresightfulness in terms of looking forward and saying, city colleagues, statewide, we need assistance in ensuring that the initiatives of those changes to criminal justice, including discovery, are actually met. Meaning, can we get everything in and turn it over in a meaningful and timely fashion to defense? So thank you for your investment. Thank you for your courage in leading us, and we look forward to working with you and the legislature in the years to come as we continue to address what I see are needed changes, changes that will help address the plague of gun violence, ensure that the criminal justice system is fair for all, and I look forward to working with you, and thank you again.
Everyone, please stay seated as we sign the bill.